And another month of the season has come to an end, so it is time for the May recap here on the Atlanta Braves franchise. In the month of May, the Braves finished the month sitting at 28-20 on the season, which is good enough for second place in the National League East, which is 1.5 games out of first place behind the first place Washington Nationals. Similar theme as the April recap, as we are only 2 months into the season and there's a lot of ground to be made. A lot of stuff that can happen still, so 1.5 games out of first place is a great spot to be. We're a wild card team right now. The playoffs started today, but there's definitely still a lot of time for things to change with how people are performing, how other teams are performing, and just all that jazz. And so far this season, none of our players are really standing out on the league leaders list, aside from Mike Foltynewicz, who is having a .95 whip, which is actually second in the National League. His ERA is a bit high with that kind of whip, but his whip definitely shows that his ERA should be a bit lower than it is, as he has a sub-1 whip, second in the National League. And then also, the Rookie of the Month for May in the National League was Gordon Miller, our backup catcher. He had 31 at-bats in the month, and hit .419 and drove in 6 runs, so congratulations to Gordon Miller, the number 2 catcher on this ball club. And now taking a look at some of the bats on this team, there's Freddie Freeman, who we all know won the MVP in the 2018 campaign, but so far in 2019 he got off to a slow start in April, and here in May he's rebounded a bit as he has ended the season on fire. He's hit 11 home runs, he's hitting .249, 320 OBP, .492 slugging, so his numbers are definitely climbing back up to the point where he's a very good player, but right now he still has some improving to do. But once again, it is early, so there's still a lot of time to do that improving. And then Corey Spangenberg, once again, hitting for a high average, .299 with a 331 OBP. You'd like to see the OBP be a bit higher, but the .299 average is definitely something to like. He's more of a contact guy, though. We just have a lot of not really much power on this team at all, and that's been an issue that you guys have noticed in the comments, and there's not really anything I can do about it besides making a trade at the trade deadline, because we don't really have any power throughout the minor league system at all. Just a bunch of contact hitters. Everybody I draft is like some super high contact, like 20 power hitter. It's just ridiculous, so... But we will hopefully improve upon that at the deadline, but as of right now, Corey Spangenberg, contact hitter, .299 average. Marwin Gonzalez had a slow month of April, but as of through May, he is looking more like himself, hitting .268 with a 326 OBP, .439 slugging, and then he's hit 7 home runs, driven in 21 RBI, so he is definitely moving along back to where he was last season. Jung Ho Gong had an on-fire month of April, but a pretty not too good month of May, as he's hitting .267, 318 OBP, .479 slugging. Still good numbers, but definitely down from what he did in the month of April, as he's currently on a cold streak. John Ryan Murphy and Gordon Miller were both guys who were just absolutely nowhere to be found in the month of April, and I said there's still a lot of improving to do, a lot of stuff that can change, and these guys just came right out in May and just raked. John Ryan Murphy, he was hitting like 120 in April. Now he's hitting .279, 352 OBP, .465 slugging. He's got 5 home runs, driven in 19 runs. The guy has been performing quite well. He's probably one of our better bats on our team so far this year. He's probably a top 3 bat on the team. And then, of course, like I mentioned earlier in the episode, Gordon Miller won the Rookie of the Month for May, and on the season so far, he's hitting .313 with a .429 OBP. Rio Ruiz got called up when Wilfredo Tovar got sent down, so Ruiz could be the corner infield backup guy, and he's gotten 39 at-bats since being called up. He's hitting .308 with a .357 OBP and a .487 slugging in those 39 at-bats, so he's done his job as a backup player. While Ozzie Albies is a guy who I think I'm going to send down at some point in the month of June, because he's just not really getting any at-bats. He's stuck behind Marwin Gonzalez at second base. And until Albies can get those everyday at-bats, I really don't want him just kind of sitting on the bench, so I'm probably going to send him down to AAA so he gets his at-bats, keeps improving, and then he'll be ready for next season or later on, depending if we make a move or whatnot. But right now, Ozzie Albies is not... He's probably not going to be on the roster too far into June, as we'll get into a bit later on in the episode. And then, as you guys probably noticed in the last episode, I signed Nori Aoki to be a 4th outfielder, as Teoscar Hernandez has been a disappointment. Zach Granite's in AAA, not hitting well at all. Jacob May wasn't hitting well at all, and I wasn't really eager to call up anybody else, so Norioki was signed to just a 1-year, like, cheap contract. If he performs terribly, we can just DFA him, release him, whatever, and then call up somebody else. But as of right now, he's the 4th outfielder. He's only gotten 23 at-bats and being signed, and he's hitting 217 in those 23 at-bats, but once again, only 23 at-bats. He has still some time to improve. Joe Biagini will not be getting called up anytime soon to help out the bullpen, even though the bullpen doesn't really need help right now. The bullpen is pitching quite well. As Biagini was in AAA, tore his shoulder. He's out for 1 to 2 months on the 60-day DL, so we won't be seeing him for a while. And now moving on to the 2 guys I'm considering calling up to replace Ozzie Albies as the second baseman / shortstop backup player on the bench. First guy I'm considering, probably the more likely guy to get called up, is Breivik Valera, who's hitting 288 in AAA, and he is a guy who can not only play second base and shortstop, he can play third, he can play left, he can play center, he can play right, he could probably even play first if you want him there. He's a super utility guy. He can play everywhere. Good guy to have for the bench. He's got a high contact, very high vision. I believe it's a 99 vision. He's hitting 288 in AAA right now, so he's getting his hits, performing in AAA. Decently fast with 83 speed, but his steal rating is a bit low, so it's mainly a in-the-field speed, more as instead of a he can swipe a lot of bases speed, but I'm sure his speed will be able to swipe some bases. And then there's Tony Kemp, who we signed in the offseason. The Astros did not bring him back, and Tony Kemp, we picked him up to be a AAA depth guy. He's hitting 287 in AAA. He's a second baseman / can play all of the outfield positions, so the only thing with him is he can't play shortstop, and we need a guy who can play shortstop if we send down Albies, so that's kind of an issue there. He's a decent contact hitter, Gold Glove potential at second and in the outfield, just an all-around great fielder. He's got decent speed with some decent stealing stats as well, so he's another guy, kind of similar player to Valera, but Valera is more of a utility, has higher contact, while Kemp is a lot better in the field, but Valera is no slouch in the field either. So with that being said, that's going to wrap things up here for this edition of the Atlanta Braves franchise. I've been your host, Jersey Born, and I'm saying goodbye.